Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the digitally uploaded podcast, the companion podcast of digitally-downloaded.net. My name is Alan. I'm your host this week. Along with me is the good old editor, the good old man himself, Matt Sainsbury. Hello, Matt.
Hello. Elden Scrolls has fried your brain, hasn't it?
Yeah, look, I spent an hour today running around in a bush, and I didn't like it. We also have Trent here. Hello, Trent.
Hello. I haven't played Elder Scrolls, and it's good to be along you.
Yeah, there we go.
Elder Scrolls, is it? Elden Scrolls.
Elden Scrolls.
Is that like a collaboration with Bethesda? Because that would be pretty unholy.
See, what worries me is the idea that at some point we're going to end up in a situation where every single game is going to merge into one name, except for the weird named games. And I'm just going to have to try and pass through internet meme culture to understand which game we're actually talking about.
We're talking
That
about
worries
Breath
me.
of the Wild, but old-timey.
It's
Elden of the Ring.
It's gonna be like blip blop 76 question marks exclamation mark whatever.
And Born in a Zoo.
And that's gonna
is the subtitle.
That's gonna be a fighting game, and then it's also gonna be just game. Everything else is just gonna be called game.
No, it's gonna be like Death Unto the Life in the Birth XD 74.
Yeah, but you
And
play
that's
that.
the game. I would play that. I think we'd all play that.
When the game is Game of the Year,
don't even
the
know
articles
what
will
it is that we play
say,
it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to know.
Game of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, bloody George R. R. Martin's bloody ran the scenario for that one, I've heard.
Yeah, we'll get onto that. We will definitely talk.
Yeah, we're going to talk about. Yeah, that'll pop up.
A couple of times here or there. But first, we'll have some music, and then we'll talk about the games that are coming out next month or this month.
Absolutely. Yeah. And welcome back. All right, it's a big month. Right away, there's a whole bunch of really, really important sort of first-party Sony games coming out, which I'm very, very excited for. Matt, do you have the list?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's do the
He
list.
has the list.
It's going to be a big list, so let's run through it as quickly as we can. Starting with the PlayStation 5 thingy, the one that's finally starting to get some games coming, which is cool. We actually have reason to turn the bloody thing on, which is amazing. It's only been 2 years where it's been sitting there. Anyway, on March 1, ELX2. So ELX2 is a big open world RPG thing. It's Euro trash in the finest sense of the words. It's massive. It's buggy as all hell, and it's going to be absolutely slaughtered by Elden Ring, and everything else that's coming out. But if you do like your Eurojank, then there you go, ELX2. It's there. It's coming out on March 1. Then on March 3, we've got Babylon's Fall, which is Platinum Games. Everyone's forgotten about that game. I don't know why. But
wait, what?
Yeah, Babylon's Fall, Platinum Games and Square Enix.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
I need to go look this.
See, I told you. No, it's like this kind of live service RPG, but because it's Platinum Games, then it's interesting, but nobody knows it's coming out. It's coming out on March 3. Then we've got on March 4, Gran Turismo 7, the Vroom Vroom game. Sony's Vroom Vroom game.
Sorry, I need to just pause you there. What the hell is this game? Why has it not been marketed?
Yeah, it's gonna die, but it does look interesting. It does look interesting. I'm keen on playing it. Very keen.
I don't understand. I've not seen this ever before.
Vroom Vrooms are like sports games. They've got their, market. They've got their people who buy Vroom Vroom.
Alan was fascinated
about
about Babylon's
Fall.
Fall.
This game that this looks like a game that doesn't exist. Like dead set. This does not exist in the real world. I'm really sorry. I've derailed.
Yes.
Yeah, Gran Turismo. Vroom.
Gran Turismo. Vroom Vroom. Yes, Sony Vroom Vroom Vroom. We can't talk about it just yet because embargoes and all that kind of
nonsense. Can I speculate on how I think it might be?
You can speculate on how you think it might be.
I think it's going to be absolutely phenomenal because holy balls, the trailers make me very excited. And they're going back to the old Gran Turismo formula rather than doing the sports stuff, which was not really a Gran Turismo sort of game. It was kind of just a racing game. I want a car PG. That is a car PG. It looks like a car PG. They have the same menu as Gran Turismo 4. I'm excited beyond belief. I can't wait to vroom.
Yeah. Well, I can't really talk about it because of embargoes.
Yeah, you're not allowed to.
But I can confirm that it is Gran Turismo rather than esports.
It is a Gran Turismo game. That's the most exciting thing you could have said.
Moving on, because otherwise I'll get in trouble with
embargo.
And I really want to talk about it, but I can't, and I'm resisting. I'm trying very hard not to. On March 8th, WWE TK22. There you go. I'm looking forward to the bugs. I love the bugs with WWE. Every year they just
It's
get
not
worse.
made by Ukes though, is it?
Isn't it?
It's not a Ukes
that's
game,
a
no.
pity. If it's not going to be a Ukes game, I'm not interested. Moving on.
Because they got out, and that's why the last one was such a disaster.
Whatever then.
Yeah.
Moving on. If you're playing Dead by Daylight, there's a DLC that's actually quite interesting. I don't play it, but I do watch it on YouTube because it amuses me. Sadako is coming to Dead by Daylight, the ring monster thing. That's going to be awesome. That comes out on March 8th for people that are still playing that, and there are still a lot of people that do. Then we've got, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Dawn of Ragnarok. That comes out on March 10.
Does
not
anyone
really.
care?
Not really, especially since it's an open world game that comes after Elden Ring, so that's kind of it's ruined itself. But there you go. More Assassin's Creed if you're into your Assassin's Creed. Tell you what I did get that Assassin's Creed 2 collection on Switch. I haven't dug into it yet, but I'm quite keen. Remember when Assassin's Creed was good?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Syndicate. Best Assassin's Creed game is Syndicate.
I quite like
Syndicate with the PS4, and I broke it instantly. Like I climbed into the skybox. It took like 2 seconds to break the game. I was so upset.
Well, Assassin's Creed 2 is good, so I'm enjoying that. The little bit and pieces I played, they're like the 2 minutes I've played on Switch, but I have fond memories of Assassin's Creed 2. Moving on, Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin comes out on March 15, and I cannot wait for this game.
That game is going to get fucking slaughtered. I'm so excited.
It is going to be absolutely ripped on by everybody, but Nobody's going to get the fact it's just taking the piss out of everything. And I love it. I just love that this game is going to just piss off the Final Fantasy fanboys and the Dark Souls fanboys. And it's going to, it's going to be talked about. I can't wait.
I saw someone on Twitter describe it as the Limp Biscuit of Final Fantasy, and I'm like, yeah, I can't wait. That's like, if that's meant to put me off, then you failed.
The dude has a pod, an iPod. Like, he's got like a music thing, and he's just like,
he's here to kill chaos, Matt.
He just randomly
really hates chaos.
It's gonna be great.
What a game.
Yeah. So moving on, we've got this game looks interesting, mostly because the icon is interesting me. Anno Mutationum is a neon-covered 2D meets 3D cyberpunk thing. And I'm still waiting for a good cyberpunk because cyberpunk wasn't it.
I'll give it talk about that later.
we might. Speaking of cyberpunk, there's also Ghostwire Tokyo coming out on March 22. Now, I have seen this thing in preview. I had an extended media preview of it, and I really like the concept of it. Really, really like the concept of it. But I'm very worried that it's going to be Bethesda the game, but in Neon Tokyo, which, I don't know about that. Again, Elden Ring's ruined me, but Elden Ring was just so different and interesting. And
it's good. The thing is that it's
good. The gameplay meets the themes and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just worried that Ghostwire Tokyo is going to be a game rather than what it could be. But anyway, I'll definitely give it a go. Moving on, we've got. I'm just scrolling here. Oh, Crusader Kings 3 console edition comes out on March 29 on PlayStation. I'm going to play that.
That's a fun game.
I like Paradox strategy games. Like, I like them a lot, but I don't spend too much time playing games on PC unless I absolutely have to. And if Crusader Kings 3 is on console, I don't have to anymore. So that's good for me.
Yeah, that's a good game. I tried it and I did like a campaign, like a practice campaign sort of thing, and I had a great time. So heck yeah.
On March 29, Ikai comes out, and Ikai is a first-person psychological horror game drawing inspiration from Japanese folklore. So, on that premise alone, I've never heard about this game until I just read about it. But
that's a Matt game.
I mean, sign me up. It's got yokai and stuff. It's a horror game with yokai. So, yeah, I
was about to say the name made me think Ikai, yokai.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't even seen the screenshot. All this little thing is like a little icon with the name Ikai on it. The description is just, I'm there. There we go. There's another game onto the pile that I'm going to have to play. And then it is April, but it is April 1, so we'll mention it here on the podcast. MLB The Show 22 comes out as well. So Sony has a third one coming in near proximity to one another. So Horizon late last month, and then Gran Turismo, and then MLB The Show. Definitely keen on that too.
So many big games from Sony this month.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
They're having a big one. So there we go. That is the PlayStation 5. Let's have a quick look at PlayStation 4 and see if there's anything additional. Yes, there is. Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous comes out on March 1. Now, Pathfinder happens to be very, very good. If you like your Baldur's Gate and have 200 odd hours spare, then Pathfinder is it. And that happens to be me, except for the 200 hours spare bits. But I'm going to have to play it anyway because I have a fierce loyalty to Baldur's Gate, and that is the kind of spiritual sequel to them where Baldur's Gate 3 failed big time.
My hot take is that those games are impenetrable to everyone who did not grow up with them.
Yep, definitely. Absolutely. And they're happy to be that. That's the other thing I love about it. It's like, we don't care if it's not for you. This is definitely for the old dudes that that have fond memories of Baldur's Gate. And yeah, so everybody else can screw off. And that's fine. I quite appreciate and admire that. On March 1 as well, Shadow Warrior 3 comes out. And that's going to be fun.
That's a real game.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. The last two they're crass. They're really, really crass. But they're fun. they're the kind of fun shooters that I like. It's a bit like Serious Sam. I just enjoy the shooters that are very not serious. And yeah, Shadow Warrior 3 will be that. Babylon 4 does come out as well on PlayStation 4. So if you haven't got a PS5, you can play the game that nobody knows about, despite being Platinum Games and Square Enix.
It literally like might as well not exist. I'm not even joking. Like I've never heard of this game, and it seems like something that's up my alley. It's just so confusing to me. It's confronting, honestly, more than anything else.
On March 15, Phantom Breaker Omnia, and that is a 2D anime fighting game, which is super well respected. It's kind of disappeared. It's an older fighting game, and it disappeared for a long time, but it is back. And I know people that are into their hardcore 2D fighting games will absolutely love this one. So that's March 15. On March 15 as well, we've got The Cruel King and the Great Hero, which is the sequel of sorts to Blind Prince and Something Princess. They're a kind of fairy tale style 2D puzzle platformer series, which are also very, very good. The first one was anyway. So the second is definitely worth keeping an eye out for. We have another fighting game that I am definitely going to have to play. On March 17, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax comes out.
It comes out again, or as it should be called, the Ultimate Suplex.
yeah,
it's the best name of a video game that they just like decided to not run with.
This is just the same fighting game as the last one, right?
Yeah, it's the exact same game. It's a port.
Right, cool. But that's all I need, really. I'll play it.
Yeah, fair enough. I remember liking the original.
Yeah, no, the original was really good. Really, really good. So that's why I'm keen on it. Okay, so on March 25, there's a game coming out called AI Kiss 3 Cute. And
get fucked. Actually, get fucked. That's stupid.
No, Alan, you're gonna love this. The description of it. This is the entire description of the game. Comes with acrylic keychain.
Jail. Just jail for the people who made it. Jail.
Is it an RPG? Is it like a visual
novel?
No,
it's going to be a visual novel, but I just love how the only thing that they bothered to say is that it comes with an acrylic keychain. They know who's going to buy this.
Just go to jail. Do not collect $200.
They know who's going to buy this, and they don't need to bother to describe the game. They know exactly who's going to buy it. I'm going to send Alan some screenshots.
Please don't. I'm begging you.
And that's it for PlayStation 4. So we are finally seeing that.
Ending on a high note.
We are seeing that transition from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 now. So pretty much all the good stuff is getting a PS5 native release. And yeah, we're starting to see the console generation move, I guess, which is about bloody time. So let's have a look at the Switch, shall we? Let's see what's coming out on Switch. On March 2, there's a game called Zombie Rollers Pinball Heroes. And
is that with a Z?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate it. Ban it.
Yeah, you got it. I'm keen on it because it's pinball. And I actually really loved the Pinball of the Dead game. Do you remember that one, Alan? Did you ever play that?
No.
It was really good.
24, 25 now. Oh, God, I'm old.
Yeah, it was really good fun. I like zombies and pinball together, so I'm keen on that one. I think it's an RPG, the pinball game anyway. Yeah. Then we've got Alan's game of the month for sure. Pretty Girls Breakers comes out on March 3.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Get that in my fucking Switch. I'm going to download it right now.
Pre-order.
How'd you know? How did you know that was what I wanted this entire time? God, I hate video games, dude. Ban them. Just actually ban video games.
Okay, so here's one that I am actually interested in, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce this very well. Shiro no Kotoha. Dark Reflections is a visual novel with a survival mystery story set in an inescapable private library. So, yeah, that sounds interesting for me. As somebody that quite likes mystery visual novels. Yeah, escape rooms and visual novels. That's a good combination for me. So there we go. Add that to the list. I don't know how I'm going to work through this list, but there it is. It's a big list. Here we
There's a
go.
list
So
there.
the first big one for the Switch comes out on March 4, and it is a big one. Triangle Strategy. Yay! Final
God,
Fantasy
I forgot
Tactics.
about that entirely.
Yeah, there we go. That's how busy it's been. This is a premium game. Like, this is top-notch stuff. I could talk
Why did I
about it.
think that game was coming out next month? Like, not March, but like April or May or something like that.
Yeah,
like
I think
around
pretty much everybody was just thinking it's going to release at some point down the track without actually thinking about the release date, because there has been so much other stuff coming out. But yes, it is coming out on March 4. It is very good. I can talk about it in kind of broad terms because of previews, but obviously I can't talk about the review that I'm writing. I am playing it. I do love it. And if you are a fan of Final Fantasy Tactics, which you should be because it is a very good game, then you are going to love Triangle Strategy. March 4.
Can't wait for the snowball scene.
Yes,
To
there is
be
going to be
fair,
a snowball scene.
To be fair, like if you saw that game and you're like, "Oh, that looks like Final Fantasy Tactics," and you know that you like Final Fantasy Tactics, I don't think it's like a stretch to say that game's probably gonna be like up your alley extremely.
Yes,
You know?
that's all they've tried to do anyway. Like, it's they've
just
made
that.
it. Yeah, they've just made it for people that like Final Fantasy Tactics, and that's
Well,
cool.
I really hated the original demo. Like, I couldn't click with it because it was like, here's a random scene from like ages later, or here's a random scene from like, yeah, it just didn't, like, there was so much disconnect. I'm like, I'm not going to play the original demo. And the
Yeah.
prologue demo came out. I'm like, yes. And I sat down, I played it, and I embraced the game, and I love it. I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Having the narrative context definitely helps enjoy that game, which the original demo didn't really do. So I think that people will probably be turned around on it when they play it on release. On March 10, there's a game coming out called Ashwalker's A Survival Journey, which seems interesting because it actually comes from the co-founder of Don't Nod. I don't know too much about this. It's a survival journey through a harsh world without rules or judgment. Make your choice. Only your choice matters in the face of moral dilemmas. So it's definitely like a game that the dude that invented Life is Strange would do once he broke away from the original company. I think that's what it is. And that's interesting. That could be good. It could be bad as well. But with 34 possible endings, it could be interesting. That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
here
some
we
of
go.
the more experimental Don't Nod games were pretty interesting anyway.
Yeah.
Like Twin Mirror and Tell Me Lie, they were, pretty good. So
Yeah,
I'd be down for it.
So that's the new studio that the co-founders set up, and let's give him a chance, I say. On March 10, here comes this game I am like obscenely happy about existing. Chocobo GP.
Yeah.
It comes out on March 10. I am just it makes me happy. It makes me so happy. Firstly, because I love the original Chocobo racing. It was great for PlayStation 1 era kart racer. It was great. And then it's Chocobo. It's so good. So happy. Chocobo is such a happy character. Anyway, that comes out on March 10, and that's going to be a big thing for the Switch for me anyway. That is exclusive to Switch too.
I was gonna say, like, really?
Yeah, Nintendo's publishing it. Like, it's a Square Enix game, but Nintendo must have bought like publishing rights or something to it. So it'll probably come out on PC at some point. But yeah. Okay, so on March 17, Galgun Double Piece comes out on Switch, which Alan, somebody cover Alan's ears because he's not going to get
Again, just whatever. Not for me. If you like it, that's great. But
I hope it has that like $120 DLC that didn't really do anything, which was just hilarious with the original
DLC?
Release. So this is the game where you point your gun, which kind of a pheromones gun. You point the pheromones gun at the girl characters, and their clothes become see-through. So this DLC was like $120, and it just made the clothes slightly more see-through, but not like didn't really do anything. It wasn't really noticeable in play. So yeah, it was just a stupid DLC that was thrown in as a joke, and I just wonder how many people bought it. I'm sure some people did, which is just funny. Which is just funny, and I hope they do that again with this one because that's a big part of the. It's a joke game, and yeah, it's fun. I enjoyed it. We also have on March 18 Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, which is
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm in for that. 48 more courses, which is just an incredible number of new courses.
Yeah.
And it's also free if you're a existing subscriber to the Switch Online thing, which I am. So that's 48 courses for nothing.
There's no reason for them to make Mario Kart 9. There is literally no reason.
Well,
I think that's
the thing. Like, people were like, "Why aren't you making Mario Kart 9?" Well, just keep making Mario Kart 8. It's a good game. It doesn't need a sequel. Do this instead. That's fine. I'm all for that. 48 more courses.
Literally, it doesn't make any sense. Like, they are making so much money off of that video game. There is simply no point.
It's still on the bloody sales charts. Like, if it's still selling,
it sells better than most like AAA games.
I know. It's still, if it's still selling, why do a sequel? That's just pointless. On March 22, I'm keen on this. Okay, this game, Tempest 4000 comes out.
That's the old Atari game, right?
That is, and I'm a little bit cautious about this because Atari is publishing this, and Atari is just the worst.
It's probably going to be rubbish. Yeah,
but there's just this slight chance that it could work out. I think, at least it looks like, you remember that TXK game that was produced on the Vita and stuff? You might not.
Absolutely
remember.
not.
Yeah,
I played like 4 games on Vita and 3 of them Persona 4.
I think it was the Downwell guy. I think it was him. If it wasn't him, if it wasn't him, it was another developer that was like really super indie and kind of loved for those kind of old indie arcade style games. Anyway, so he created this game called TXK, I think it was called, and it was kind of a spiritual successor to Tempest. And it was all this kind of neon style enemies and this kind of, it was neon. It was just a very neon game. And he got sued into oblivion because Atari didn't like that he made this game that was so similar to Tempest. This Tempest 4000 looks like it could be like that game. And again, I don't like Atari by any means, but if they somehow got him involved with it and made this game out of that, then that's cool. That could be a nice outcome. Anyway, I'll investigate the story behind Tempest 4000 more and do a review of it at some point. We also have Rune Factory 5 coming out on March 22, and that game is just wonderfully happy and charming and lovely. It's the Harvest Moon style farming mixed with dungeon crawling kind of combat and stuff, RPG mechanics, and it's a delight. It's very twee, Alan.
I'll accept
twee.
it.
Yeah, twee.
At least it's not like a titty game, you know what I mean?
No, it's not. It's not.
It's a nice game.
It's very
I
wholesome.
just want farming in my farming simulation game. I don't need bloody monsters coming out from the.
Well, you can play Story of Seasons, Trent. You can play Story of Seasons if you like that. But if you like
the new one good, I can't keep the pace.
Yes, the new one's very good. But Rune Factory 5 is lovely. It's just so wholesome. It's pleasant. You need some pleasant games, especially if you're still playing Elden Ring. You need a break. On March 25, we have Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So this is Kirby.
I keep forgetting that game exists, and I love it.
It's Kirby does The Last of Us, but is somehow both more horrific and better.
Wait,
he does
Kirby
eat a car.
Yeah. He does eat a car, and it is the most horrifying thing I've ever seen.
Fucking devour a car. It's pretty great.
I'm looking forward to it. I am. I'm going to enjoy this, I think. I'm definitely looking forward to it. March 25.
It'll be cute. Like, regardless of anything else, it'll be cute.
It will. Oh, that's what I think.
That's all you really need, to be quite honest with you.
And then on March 29, Crystar comes out on Switch. I'm looking forward to that. That was a good game on PlayStation 4. It is the RPG in which crying is a core mechanic. It's by the same creator as Monarch, and which Monarch released a week ago. And it is smart. This guy makes very smart games. They're very B kind of grade in terms of their production values, but they are smart, very, very smart. And this one is too. We also have Ikai coming out on Switch, which is great. Looking forward to that. I'll play it on Switch, I think. And then just as a quick note to finish things off, it does come out again in April, but I will mention it here because it's at the very start of April. MLB The Show is actually coming to Switch too.
That's wild.
Which is great. It is a Sony produced game, but I think MLB was like, you want to keep the license, you're putting this on everything. And Sony was like, oh, okay, we'll do that. So
Yeah.
it is coming out on Switch. It did come out on Xbox last year. Last year's MLB didn't come out on Switch, but this time it is coming out on everything. And I think I'm going to go with a Switch version myself. MLB on the go would be good.
I have not really played an MLB game before. I've played like the one that was free on PlayStation Plus and had a great time with it because it just plays like a cricket game, and that was all I really needed.
Well, I mean, they are very
cricket game.
They are very, very good. They are probably of those kind of big American sport games. You're talking NHL and Madden and NBA. MLB is probably my favorites.
It's the one that's the least exploitative, and I appreciate that.
Yep, and it just, I think video games does better for baseball than some of the other sports. So it's a simpler sport, which means it's a little bit, it's easier for the developers. I don't want to say they're lazy or anything, but it is just easier for them to make a good baseball game than it is a good ice hockey game. And yeah, that consistently shows with the MLB show, the show series. All right, so after all of that, God, that was a lot of games. You get to pick one, Trent, one game.
All the games. I'm playing all of them.
No, one.
Let's go with, I want to say Kirby, but that's probably yours. Let's go with Triangle Strategy. Let's play some Triangle Strategy.
You just want this. You're just keen to see if there's a snowball scene, isn't it?
Yeah, there's going to be some snowball fights. There's going to be like a war is going to start because someone throws a snowball at the wrong king's daughter, and it's going to erupt the whole land. You watch.
Okay, so that is Trent's prediction for what's happening in Triangle Strategy. Fair enough. Probably not far off the track there. I can't talk about it. Alan, one game.
I predict in Gran Turismo 7, you're going to beat up Tokyo Man from Tokyo Drift. And it's going to be sick.
Yeah,
and it's going to be the best thing ever.
You're a GT boy, aren't you, Alan?
Yeah, I mean, I did the fucking 24-hour race in GT4 because I was psycho.
Did you really?
I did. Yeah, I left it on B-Spec overnight because I went to bed. And Mum was like, why are we leaving the PS2 on? And I was like, oh, gotta get around.
In the middle of the game.
Gotta go around Nürburgring. The worst bit was my dad backed me up and he was like, nah, but he has to finish it.
Did you win?
Absolutely not. B-Spec was not good in the PS2 era. Did not work.
Okay.
But yeah, Gran Turismo. Yeah.
All right.
And Matt, what are you looking forward to?
Chocobo GP.
That's respectable.
100%. I love Chocobo so much. I actually have like 8 Chocobo plushes that I've picked up every time I go to Japan. I end up picking up a new Chocobo plush, and yeah, big time fan of the character. So, yeah, it's so happy, and sometimes we need happy, especially if we're going to be in World War III by the time that game comes out, which is quite possible.
I'm really loving being in Europe right now, personally.
I was going to say it is nice to be on the other end of the planet right now.
It literally just like not be involved in it at all, and you'll be right.
yeah, which of course means we're going to get involved in it.
That he's going to open his mouth. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I know. We do have the unfortunate political leadership that is going to open their mouths, and there we go.
And then the great part is because we're going to an election this year, no one wants change in a wartime. So 4 more years of the Liberal Party. Yay!
Well, I mean, the good news for me is I'm too old to be recruited or to be conscripted, so that's a nice thing.
I swear to God, if I'm pulled back into Australia, I swear to God, I will break someone's knees. I've spent 5 years in university. I'm not going to go get shot by some Russian person. I have too much debt. God damn it.
That was dark. That was such a dark turn for the end of this section. Let's go to some
How
music.
good is gaming?
You can play all this in the new Call of Duty coming out this year.
Didn't they announce they were going to delay it? I think they said well, maybe they didn't. Maybe I misread something somewhere.
I haven't seen anything about a delay, but lots of things change in the past few weeks, so who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? They may well end up having to delay it. I'm not sure people are going to want to play a Call of Duty game when there's an actual war going on.
I feel so bad for the Stalker devs because, like, fuck, that's so grim right now.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad.
Well,
Trying to
you
ship a
just-
game in
you-
general
you-
is horrendous.
You just know that somebody's going to be like, "Yo, why aren't you releasing it?" They're going to have to not release it, and they're like, "Well, why have you delayed this game?" You just know some people on Twitter are going to go have a go at them for it. You just know it because it's gamers.
And gamers are historically the most oppressed group. So, like, they
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Why aren't you releasing this game in the middle of a war zone? Yeah, that's what they're going to do because that's gamers. Yeah. All right, let's
So
go to
with
some
that-
music and something happy. Let's have some Chocobo music, Alan.
I'm just gonna play the Chocobo music from Final Fantasy 13 too.
No, that's not the heavy metal one, right?
Yeah, it is.
No, you're not playing that one.
Oh,
No,
alright.
I think you can play the theme song from Chocobo Mystery Dungeon.
All right. And welcome back. So obviously, I don't think it's too much of a surprise to say to anyone, but the biggest release probably of the first 6 months of this year came out a couple of days ago when you're listening.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn, the game from 8 years ago.
Can I just say, I almost feel sorry for those guys.
Oh,
Almost.
they've been dusted.
they come out with this massive game, and then literally 1 week later, it's like, what was that game? We've forgotten about that game. Who cares
so
about that
sad.
game? Yeah.
It's genuinely heartbreaking because like they obviously worked really hard on it, but like
yeah, and
I mean-
obviously I had my issues with it, but I want them success. I always want every video game to be a success and to find its audience. And yeah, they just got pummeled. They just got
I
absolutely
couldn't even remember the
pummeled.
title of the game. I just remembered it was a Horizon game. So my
yeah,
joke
it's,
was
it's Forza Horizon 6. Yeah. Nah,
Horizon
Elden...
New Horizons.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, like we've got Elden Ring. I mean, that's what we're dancing around here. Elden Ring is. I mean, I've just played 3 hours of it. It is phenomenal. It's really, really good.
So how many
To the
bosses have you
point-
beaten in that time, Alan?
So I found a cat that was a mechanical thing, and I hated it. And I beat it, and then I found a
Oh, that's
Bloodborne
down
thing
that's the one you're talking about. The one down the
in the hole.
cave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's little goblin-y boys who go and they're dickheads. And then I found a Bloodborne boss that just used the Orphan of Kos attacks, and I did not like that because it reminded me of the Orphan of Kos. And then I got stuck fighting a man with a tree in his head. I didn't like him. So yeah, I've made also the horrible decision of picking a class that does not suit me because I'm the sort of brain dead idiot who will say, I want the class with the big stick who goes thwack. And I did not pick the class with the big stick that goes thwack. I picked the speedy boy with 2 swords. And the speedy boy with 2 swords, not that fun to play because I don't like that he doesn't go thwack. So that's the end of my experience with Elden Ring. I'm never playing again. I'm refunding it right now. I hate the game. Yeah, no, it is really, really good though. Like, it's astonishing. The fact that they pulled it off, like actually pulled it off, is just, I'm well impressed.
Yeah, because I was quite concerned about it. Even after the network test, I was still concerned about it because it did seem like in going open world, they were going to pick up some open world issues that I have with the genre. And
I was waiting for like a million icons on my screen.
well, it wasn't so much that after the network test because I figured it was going to be pretty light on that stuff. But I was concerned that it was going to be just like huge empty expanses of nothingness, which is what happens when you don't have a lot of icons in most open world games. And I was also very, very unhappy to see the crafting stuff in there because
I've not
every
touched
game
that.
every game has crafting these days, and I cannot stand the crafting system because it's just dumb. Like, it's especially after playing Horizon, it was like, do I really want to go to this over this bush to get a whole bunch of more little sticks to create more arrows? Why can't I just pick up a bunch of arrows? Why can't you just put arrows
Yeah,
down
that's
as a loot drop?
to steal that idea. I was watching a YouTube video the other day by a man by the name of Donkey, and he brought the fact that like a good game that has a crafting system does not make you wait to pick up crafting objects because that little animation that's like half a second, that's half a second every like 5 seconds. And that's a lot of time when you add it up over the course of a game. So
well, it's
to
also
play,
because they fill these bloody spaces with this stuff, and you just end up button mashing everywhere to get all the bits and pieces. I do not want to be pressing a button to pick up 5 million bushels of berries just so I can make a new armor for some reason. I just want to buy the bloody armor, just or pick it up as a loot thing. So I was worried about that from the network test, and I'm very happy to say that the full game just blew my
really good.
blew my concerns away. It just falls into this really lovely rhythm, and it actually makes use of the it makes good use of the open world as well. It's kind of thematically appropriate to the game and what story they're telling and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't feel like an Ubisoft game where it's just an open world for the sake of putting an open world in there.
It's set in Paris.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's just this big space that they've thrown there just to make sure that you've got a big space to walk around. It feels like they've very carefully designed this world to say something, which is more like a Breath of the Wild. And I've never thought I'd be making Breath of the Wild comparison in a Elden Ring thing, but that's what it feels like. It feels
even
like
the opening of Elden Ring feels like Breath of the Wild. Like when you're going out the elevator, it feels like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. So there we go. It's
So it's basically what we were chatting about. Like I think a few podcasts ago, we were talking about like Breath of the Wild and how it's thematically like it's taken things from past games. It's just the game which is doing it good at the moment. So in terms of what this does for open world, it's taken what Breath of the Wild, influence from Breath of the Wild, and then it's basically the next Breath of the Wild in terms of how the open world works. Is that a good?
It's Breath of the Wild with combat that doesn't make me sad.
I think you're right. I think, Trent, you're right that when people talk about open world games and point to the good examples of them, I do think that Elden Ring is going to be kind of the one people talk about now rather than Breath of the Wild. They're obviously very, very different games in pretty much every other way. It's just purely the way
one's good and the other isn't.
Even assuming you like Breath of the Wild, but
no, I did not enjoy it.
What I'm saying here is it's one of those rare examples because I think everybody who follows this podcast or has ever seen me on Twitter knows I'm not a fan of open world games as a rule of thumb. This is one of the very rare exceptions where I feel like it has a point. There's a reason that it is an open world game, and that's what I always look for with the genre, and I very, very rarely get it. And this one does. So I'm very happy with the open world. I think it's gorgeous too.
Oh yeah, I was going to
Absolutely
say
gorgeous
that.
game.
Like, I was getting really confused by people who were saying, "Oh, it looks like a PS2 game." Like, what are you talking about? Are you dumb?
I think that's the default response for just about everybody who's an idiot these days. It looks like a PS2 game. It absolutely does not. There are issues
But
with
even if it
frame
did,
rates, which for a game like this is
yeah,
a thing. The last thing you want is for your frames to be dropping when you're in the middle of trying to dodge a big sweeping sword attack by some dude that's like 3 million meters tall.
and has a tree for a face.
Yeah. Yeah, the last thing you want is a drop in frames, but I'm sure they'll fix that. It's not enough to stop you from being able to play the game and finish the game anyway. It's just a mild irritant on the otherwise kind of impeccable presentation. Yeah.
So as someone who hasn't played it yet, and I haven't caught the thing, and the whole time, there was a meme which was going around like a week ago. It's like basically saying, this whole time I thought this was like some sort of Lord of the Rings thing. Like that's sort of where I am in terms of this whole game. Like I have no idea what this game is. Like things like Death Stranding, like coming up to that, it like seemed weird and crazy, but I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. And then I was like, okay, this is the best thing ever. But I haven't got that vibe with this game, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's got such a great open world." I'm like, "Yeah, mechanically seems really, really awesome, and I'll probably like it from a wankery perspective of game design." But what else is there? Like everyone's talking about it being like essentially Dark Souls and the continuation of that sort of like style that From Software does, but that was never what I wanted in a game. So I don't know if there's
No, this is not for you
there
then.
for me.
Yeah, no,
100%,
this
game
is
not for
absolutely
you.
not for you.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you
it
don't
is
like Dark Souls, you are not going to like this game because it is just Dark Souls, but with a new, I guess, medium of gaming.
Well, I guess my issue with Dark Souls, and I haven't played Dark Souls, is because everyone's saying it's really hard, and I don't want a game which is basically grinding and bullshit.
Look, Trent,
to get to...
it's not really grinding, because with these games it doesn't matter how much you grind. If you don't play well, you'll still get
your shit pushed in.
It is challenging, and that is always the point of these games. People play them because they are challenging, and I actually think that thematically, again, it makes sense that these things are challenging, because you do play as this character that is dropped into a very hostile, kind of very dark world. And
you could say that they are in a dark world full of Dark Souls.
Yes, but if you were ever comfortable while you were playing, then it would undermine the game. And the easier a game is, the more comfortable you can be with it. And I just don't think that suits Dark Souls. So without getting into the stupid discussion that happens every time.
One discussion that happens every year on Twitter around like June, July.
I don't think that easy mode suits what From Software does with these games. I think an easy mode probably would have worked to Sekiro to an extent, because Sekiro seemed like it was the difficulty wasn't the point of Sekiro. Whereas I feel like the difficulty is the point of these games. It lends atmosphere to the kind of the melancholic gothic setting that they've set, and it kind of drips with that atmosphere, because if you go down this little tunnel, you think, okay, there might be a reason I should go down this tunnel, but also I'm about to run into some feral boss with 3 million different arms, and I just don't want to do that. So yeah, but
I would simply rather not.
But
so the bosses are essentially alpha Pokemon, if we're gonna compare this to like open world games. Like that's how it works in terms of like a game, right? Like I go down this path and I find like an alpha Pokemon, which is like a giant tree, and it's like some sort of medieval thing, and then I kill it. Is that basically?
Yeah, but instead of a tree, it's a dude called like Greg the Destroyer, and he's got a big nose.
Yeah, yeah. There's kind of a huge amount of lore behind each of these bosses. So you'll see the name of the boss that you're fighting, and at the time you won't think too much about it because you're too busy trying to not be killed by the boss. But when you finally get through that battle, then you'll start to think, now what did that name mean? And then you'll see references to that name down the track, and you'll slowly start to piece together the narrative, which is the thing that people love about these games. And there's a great story behind it, that the producer, Miyazaki, he loved reading as a kid, but he was not good at it, and he didn't have access to a huge number of books and stuff because his family was not well-off family. So he used to read what he could and then fill the gaps in with the stuff that he couldn't. And as a result, he has this kind of style now where he quite likes putting pieces of information into his games and then allowing players to let their imaginations run wild and for them to go around and piece together what's actually happening in this world and stuff. So I quite like that. I've always liked that storytelling style. I know there's a whole bunch of people that kind of roll their eyes at it now, but I do think that Elden Ring will restore some of that as well, because I think part of the reason people were getting burned out on all this stuff was because Dark Souls 2 and 3 were decent games, very good games even, but they didn't push things forward. And I think that's what Elden Ring does. It completely...
This feels like a step from Dark Souls to Bloodborne.
Well, for me, it feels like what happened when they went from Kingsfield, which is the stuff that happened before before the Souls games. It feels like the kind of step that they went from Kingsfield to Demon Souls. And to me, Elden Ring is a Demon Souls game in that it just has this huge impact on me, that it's given me a lot to think about. It's just something that I really found myself invested in, rather than just a game to play. I really care about Elden Ring, which is great.
Yeah.
But
again,
to go back to the thing, sorry,
day.
just to go back to the thing that you're saying about difficulty way earlier, Trent.
Yeah.
Just if you do happen to give this game a go, just summon people to help you out.
Yeah, literally, it's in the game. They made a thing for it.
You can actually, people are quite helpful in the game overall, and they enjoy beating down bosses for people that get stuck. So just do that and sit back and let them do their thing. Because honestly, you shouldn't hate the game that you're playing. And if you do find yourself really struggling with it, then that help system is there. And I think people feel like they have some kind of obligation to beat these bosses and stuff by themselves, but don't. just yeah. If you ever find yourself stuck,
so catch people, throw people at Pokemon, and get...
No, there's a little summon thing that there's an item you can use, and then it'll pull up everybody around that wants to be summoned into your game. You just summon them in, and they go off and they'll gently kill the boss.
So they're not in-game people; they're like online
they're real
stuff.
People. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Real people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say is, I actually worked out, in terms of From Software games, the only From Software game I've actually played is Lost Kingdoms 2.
That was a great game.
Now,
that
is
was a
this
great
like
game back
Lost
in the day.
Kingdoms 2?
No, it's nothing like it. I mean, I guess perhaps the atmosphere is vaguely similar, but it's very different. Very, very different game.
I mean, I would also just add on to this. I don't think Souls games are hard. I don't think they're difficult though. I think you just have to practice, and you just gotta like learn shit. And so many games nowadays are like designed that you get it on the first go, that when there's a game that is like, no, try again, a lot of people go, huh? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that they're particularly difficult games. I think that they require attention.
Why I do think they are difficult is because so when you lose, this is for Trent's benefit, when you get killed in the game, and it does happen quite a lot, you drop all your souls, which are the things that you collect, or runes in this case. You drop all your kind of currency, and this currency is you get it from defeating enemies, and then you use that currency to level up and buy items and everything. It's kind of the fundamental currency of the game. It's the experience system plus the gold and all that. And you lose all of that when you die, and you get one chance to get back to the spot where you died. And if you do, then you reclaim all of those runes. If you don't, if you get killed again, then they're gone for good. Now, for me, where the difficulty with these games come is not so much in the actual fight. It's the tension about trying to get back to those bloody souls or runes when you die. That sends me into a spin.
They're very different. Souls and runes, very different.
That sends me into a spin, and that's where I find the games difficult, because I become very anxious that I've just dumped a shitload of runes somewhere, and now I'm going to have to try and get back there. And what it kind of affects the way I play. I'm a very cautious player with these Souls games. I inch forwards bit by bit. And when I run into enemies, I always backtrack quite a bit so that if I do get killed, then I know I can get back to that spot. And yeah, so I think that's where I find it challenging, that I do feel quite tense when I need to get my runes back. It's not so much the bosses, because
like that's what I mean. Like, it's mechanically, it's not challenging. It's the atmosphere that's challenging.
yeah,
And it's the same reason that like Pathologic is challenging. It's not necessarily the mechanics of the game. It's more just the fact that you are not happy.
Well, I mean, Pathologic is challenging because it's just so badly designed.
Intentionally, and I love that.
Yes, I know.
It's the best.
It's just
I love that game.
It's just such a it's a game that wants to mess you up because you just can't play it. It's great. I do like Pathologic. But yeah, give it a go, Trent.
Yeah, this is also like probably the most user-friendly one so far, I'd say.
Yeah, it is also
user-friendly. Okay.
It is quite accessible, because one of the good things about this game, and one of the benefits of it being open world or whatever, is that you don't really get stuck. You used to get very stuck with Dark Souls and whatever, because you'd be on a pretty set pathway, and if you run into a boss that you found challenging, then it would take you a while to work your way around that boss or get the help you needed to defeat them and move on. With Elden Ring, if you find yourself challenged by a particular enemy, you can always go off and explore and do something else, and that's fine as well. You might find an enemy that is a little bit easier for you. You might find a kind of completely optional dungeon to wander around and get some loot, and give the boss again another go when you're feeling a bit refreshed. So the open world does make Elden Ring more accessible.
I would also say as well, there's a new mechanic where instead of just having the bonfires by themselves, you also have these extra bonfires which are just outside of the dangerous areas. So if you do die in like a little dungeony thing, like in the open world, it just spawns you right back at the start of it, and you can just go and fix it again. It's not as punishing as I was expecting it to be.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
It respects your time, but it is also out there to challenge you, which is good.
And the fast travel system's quite good too.
It's literally just point and you go.
Yeah, and you can always backtrack all the way to the very start of the game if you want to, and just explore somewhere there and whatever. But it's a really good game and very thematically interesting. I'm still piecing together a lot of it myself. I've played it for about 80
in terms of the story, you're
over. Saying
that it was mainly told by like bits and pieces, and like things like, okay, this is the monster's name, okay. Is there some sort of, is it just like battling things? Is there some sort of areas which are grounded, like, okay, here's a little village, or here's some people which
you have your like hub town area,
yeah.
But I'm not going to explain
but
it.
It's not what you might be. It's not what you might be thinking, Trent. Where there's a village which has like 100 people wandering around, and you can talk to them all. There's not that many people in Elden Ring that aren't trying to kill you. What happens for the most part is you'll be wandering around, and there'll be like one person there that you might bump into, and then you can talk to them, and they'll give you a little bit of information, and then you can move on. So for the most part, that is the only non-violent interactions you have in this game. But they're quite interesting, and they're fun when you come up to them. They're interesting characters.
Yeah, it's just well made. It's just really, really good, and I wasn't expecting it to be as well made as it is, in all honesty.
Because you have to remember, Trent, the whole world of Elden Ring is this kind of blighted, cursed landscape kind of thing. So it's not like there are rest areas as such. The whole point is that you're meant to feel like
maybe I like find like a little village, and I'm like, okay, well, it's like deserted, but then I like unblighted or whatever, and then it's suddenly like, I can be like, hey, you over there, you're like a woods guy, come over here, and he starts building some houses.
Yeah, no, it doesn't do
You
that.
just want Terrytown. You're literally just
I
asking
just want Terry. I want Terrytown in every single game. I'm annoyed there was no Terrytown in Pokemon. Like, Pokemon would have been perfect to be like, okay, let's start a new village in this region, and you're like the founder, and you start like collecting people from across the region, and then you've got a new Pokemon town. Like, it would have been
so you
perfect.
Just want Pokemon and Zelda Breath of the Wild.
I want Terrytown in all my games.
All right, fair enough. It's
Yeah,
not. This is not gonna
you're
be
not
then.
you're not going to get that in Elden Ring. Elden
You're
Ring's
gonna get yelled at instantly. I mean, I found my first dungeon and had a jump scare because I was so comfortable and just excited about exploring the game that I was not prepared for a classic FromSoft "Hey, gotcha" moment.
Which
So-
dungeon was that?
That was the dungeon with the cat boy, the robotic cat boy.
Is that the one that's
It's full of like little goblin-y lads who go,
yeah. Is that the one down the beach?
maybe? I don't know. I found it in a hole.
There's like a
I had a
cave
great
in the
time.
beach.
There was like some birds next to it, and there was some boys with some torches, and they were like going,
Yeah, that might be the one because there's two
Yeah.
there's two kind of cavey dungeons at the start.
yeah.
There's
The first one is
there's the one down the
Bloodborne.
beach, and then there's the other one which has the wolves, and then the
Bloodborne. Yeah.
yeah the Bloodborne
just
one.
Bloodborne.
Yeah.
It's
Your
literally just
description of
Bloodborne.
the monsters doesn't help me thinking that it's not a Lord of the Rings thing. I'm just expecting you to be like, they go, and then they're like, my precious, or something.
It's not
like,
really. It's very different to Lord of the Rings in the sense that it's not that. Oh, it's not traditional enemies that you kind of run into. I mean, Alan's saying kind of goblin-like things, and they are kind of vaguely, I guess, goblin-like, but
They're pricked up looking.
they're a very different kind of gothic enemy. They're probably more like what you would imagine monsters from an expanded Dracula might look like,
Yeah. That
or
checks out.
a Frankenstein. If you took those kind of gothic traditions and turned those into monsters, or turn those into Pulp Fiction, where there was a lot of different monsters rather than just a vampire, then that would be what Elden Ring is. The other thing that I really liked about Elden Ring actually was that, I mean, this is a Japanese kind of take on gothic fantasy, so there is that kind of quality to it, and I really like that Elden Ring doesn't seem to have George Martin involved in it meaningfully at all, which I really appreciated as well. I was worried that it was going to be like a George R.R. Martin style story there, but it isn't, which is great. I don't know what he did. Maybe just slapped his name on it.
He did the scenario writing.
Yeah, in
also.
theory, but I don't know how much of the actual scenario in there is his, because it doesn't feel much like a George R.R. Martin scenario either, to me.
Not
Anyway.
really, no.
I feel like no one's talking about it. Like it was like a huge thing when it was announced, but like it's not really part of the game's discourse.
Well,
that
remember
is
when
attached to
it was announced, everybody was watching Game of Thrones on TV and
Yeah.
absolutely loving it and obsessed with George R.R. Martin. Nobody's that keen on George R.R. Martin anymore, in part because he can't be bothered writing that last book that we're still waiting on from the Game of Thrones
To be
series.
fair, would you want to be bothered writing that book?
No, there's no way he can finish it. I don't think he's ever going to write. He's going to die and he's not going to finish it. There's just no way that you can wrap up everything that he's thrown in the air in a single book. So whoever's going to write the book posthumously, whoever gets stuck with that job is the
Good
poor
luck.
sucker. Yeah, good luck with him.
Literally, good luck.
There's no way he's going to write that book. It's just not going to happen. He can't do it. It's impossible.
But yeah, buy Elden Ring. It's a good time. Have fun with it. We're gonna play some Elden Ring music right now.
Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so for the last section of the podcast today, this week, this month,
Why did you become Norwegian? For the loosed.
we're going to talk about spoilers. So this topic came to mind because in the lead up to the release of Elden Ring, because that is all we can all think about at the moment, there was some talk about the launch trailer, which they put out to promote the game and say, hey, look, Elden Ring's out this week, you should buy it, and so on and so on, as a trailer does. And there were a bunch of people that seemed to be miffed by spoilers within the trailer. And it struck me as a bit surreal, really. So I thought we'd talk about spoiler culture in video games and the arts in general. And it's because it is an interesting topic, and it is one that has rankled me a bit in recent times. And yeah, it's a good one. Let's get Trent and Alan's thoughts on it, and let's have a talk. But
no, I think I've got the same opinion as you do. That's the thing. I'm not worried. This is gonna be a very interesting conversation on my end, because I'm just be like, yeah, it's dumb.
Well,
You know exactly what the opinion is. It all started with those bloody Marvel movies.
Yes, well, the Marvel movies are certainly a really good example of this. But to go back and just let's see if we can agree on this one first. You can't spoil in a trailer, right? We all agree on this fundamentally.
It's a trailer.
Yeah, it's designed to show
To
stuff
grab your
off.
attention. Yeah.
And also, it's made by the people that made the product, so I'm pretty sure they'd know what is and isn't a spoiler in their own thing, right? Like that's just basic logic, right?
Yes, but Matt, don't you understand that some movies are completely spoiled in a trailer, and it's the whole movie in the trailer, right?
To be fair, there are some movies that do that, and you go to the movie and you're like, oh, I could have just watched the trailer. Which is a little bit sad. And it's more of an indictment of the movie than the trailer, to be honest with you.
Well, that's because they put all the good stuff in the trailer, and the rest of the movie around it sucks.
But, I mean, with more so video games, if like a 30-second trailer captures all that there is to know about like 20 to 40-hour games plus, then there's something wrong with your video game.
That story better be bloody good. The gameplay better be bloody good.
That's exactly it. And I think the problem I have with the trailers is, the spoilers. The problem I have with people and spoilers is these days it seems like every plot point, every character is a spoiler. So I went out and made a tweet about the trailers.
That snarky tweet.
Yeah, I did one, and somebody decided they were going to respond to me, which is never a good idea. And they responded by saying, oh, I wish I hadn't seen the trailer for the Spider-Man movie, because imagine how much better it would be if it wasn't spoiled that Dr. Oak was, in the movie. And I was like,
Dr. Oak.
Dr. Oak.
Dr. Professor Oak.
Yes.
Here's your Pokemon, Spider-Man.
But it's
you and I ain't so different, Spider-Man.
But it's like, how is a character in the film a spoiler?
I don't think any of those extra characters are like done in a spoiler way. Like knowing them really doesn't change the fact of like for like Spider-Man in particular, the direction of the film is ultimately these characters are out from the portal. Like that isn't a spoiler. That is just the general plot point. You are gonna have bad guys in the whole Series 7 or whatever it is. You're gonna have Spider-Mans. Like the Spider-Mans are not really you know what I mean? They're not really the spoilers. They're just the plot point. These things are out from wherever. They're in the movie.
That's the thing. It's like a character being in the movie isn't so much a spoiler. It's just a plot point. A spoiler is when people find out that Bruce Willis is actually dead. That, if you had to spoil that going into the movie, it would have changed your entire perception of the movie.
Patrick Swayze, also dead.
That was in the... People knew that one.
Matt. No, that's a spoiler, Matt. Come on.
People knew that
the
one.
movie's called Ghost. It could be about anything.
Patrick Swayze dances. That's a spoiler.
The only ghosts are our regrets.
All around me are familiar faces. Yeah. I don't know. I personally don't really give a shit, but that's just me being me. I guess
well, see, and that's the other thing about spoilers is every time there is a spoiler, it limits what you can actually talk about with the film or the game or the book or whatever. And in some cases, yes, limiting what people can talk about is kind of the point. Again, the Bruce Willis thing, the Sixth Sense, limiting people's ability to talk about him being dead it was important, because not knowing that going into the film was kind of the theme. That was the core kind of concept of the film. Whereas I would even say that the whole Darth Vader is his dad thing isn't really that much of an issue on your overall enjoyment of the film. But talking about that is important, because that was an important theme to talk about. And if you cover it with spoilers, you can't talk about it anymore. Therefore, your ability to talk about the film is quite inhibited. And it's the same with games. The Horizon one that came out a week
Which
ago.
one, the race one or the
the Horizon not Zero Dawn. The Zero Dawn was
Forgotten
the first
West.
one. Forgotten West. So in the spoiler conditions with Forgotten West,
Forgotten West.
we were told not to talk about this character, which was the heart and soul of the game. And like, that was the literal words they used in the spoiler conditions. And if we can't talk about the heart and soul of the game, how are we talking about the game? You know, it becomes very difficult to have the artistic conversation about the work of art that we just can't talk about it. So
what frustrates me as well, I think I'm going to be very much on the same page as you. I'm not interested in the actual like details of a story. I'm interested in the actual progression of that story towards that detail.
Yeah,
like, because what's the point of knowing, like, oh yeah, I know that Darth Vader is Luke's dad, but like, I don't know who Luke is. I don't know who Darth Vader is. I don't know why that's important. I don't know why I should care. Because it's all good and nice to be like, oh, this is an important character, but I don't fucking care. Give me a reason to care.
Like how I like a good prologue. Like a good prologue, it's about the emotion of the scene and the progression of building up the characters, introducing the themes, and if that good prologue is carried out throughout the story, it sucks you in. Yes, you can know the plot points. I say, for example, Golden Sun. I'll use Golden Sun, not Final Fantasy, as an example. Say Golden Sun. Like, Golden Sun's great. If I just tell you that the game is about collecting these orbs, you're like lighting fires or whatever on the lighthouses, and you're uniting the world because you broke it, and alchemy. Like, that's not really a spoiler. That's just the general overarching plot point. And I could tell you that there's various towns you go to. There's like a forest village. Like, that's irrelevant to the whole story or the emotion you feel when you're playing the game. So like the prologue in Golden Sun has that really good, it's all dark and stormy and rainy, and then you sneak out and you fuck over the whole world. And then all of a sudden, you're on a journey, and it's the journey of discovering things like for the first time, and then you're like meeting these characters, and then you're like slowly finding these cool lands. And yeah, that's more a spoiler, I guess, than other things.
Golden Sun, if people were going to talk about spoilers, for example, with Golden Sun,
would be they would brother, have said,
right? Yeah, exactly. They would have said, oh, the brother is kind of not dead. And you're on a quest to kind of chase him. But the whole point of the game is that. So if you can't talk about that particular scene, then your ability to talk about the point of Golden Sun is greatly reduced. And definitely publishers weaponize all this stuff. They absolutely do, because they want you to talk about certain things. And to go back to Horizon, they wanted us to talk about the open world. They wanted us to talk about the combat system. They wanted us to talk about the boss battles, because all of those things are objectively good. They're very hard to criticize within Horizon. But the story is
the rest of Horizon is boring as fuck.
The story is something you can very, very much criticize. So the best way to deal with that is just say, oh, you can't talk about the story. You can't talk about these things that are important to talking about the story. Therefore, your review is impossible to substantiate, because you can't point to these scenes or these characters or whatever. They did exactly the same thing with The Last of Us 2. The story is something that is very easy to pull apart. there are issues with The Last of Us 2's story, but we were very much inhibited in terms of what we could talk about with that story because of a huge list of spoiler restrictions. So publishers weaponize this stuff. And Marvel, you mentioned Marvel right at the start, Trent. Marvel do the same thing. They tell the critics they can't talk about this massive list of things with every single film. So what are you left to talk about? Oh, it's a big, enjoyable film. The characters are good. The humor is funny. You get that they use this stuff to try to write the reviews by being so restrictive in terms of what you can talk about that there's very little choice about what else you can actually write about. And that is a huge issue with spoilers. The other issue is somehow they've got the gamers and the film audience on board with this. Like they have everybody on board with, rather than have insightful, interesting, and good quality reviews, they have them on board with reviews should be sycophantic to our commercial interests. And I don't know how they did it.
All that
they
matters is if a game clicks and plays well, has good button mashing. If it's anything different to that, you're paid off by. If it's a bad review, you're not paid off. But yeah, you're like giving. You're not. I don't know what my point was, but it needs to be good button mashing.
Well, that's what they want us to talk about, and that's what they stick us with in terms of what we can actually talk about in these reviews. You always know a game that has confidence in it. And we're going to talk about Elden Ring again, I guess. There were no spoiler restrictions with Elden Ring. We got the code, other than publish the review at this time. You can't publish beforehand, which is a different kind of embargo, and I don't think anybody has an issue with that one. But other than that, we'll just sort of be mindful of spoilers in a very general sense. They just left the critics up to making that own decision for themselves. And that is because they had confidence in what they were doing. They had this complete confidence that the game was going to review well, that people are not going to have issues with the story, people aren't going to pull it apart on that basis, and that is it. I don't think Sony has confidence in the quality of its narratives, and that's why they restrict them. I don't think Marvel thinks that its films tell
also
good stories.
Its games, though.
Also its games as well. But I don't think Marvel thinks it's telling good stories. I really don't think so. I think that Marvel thinks it's producing content out of a factory to appease fans, and their goal is to simply manufacture fans, and they do that by making sure that there is this unending hype machine, and that's it. They don't have a confidence in the stories. So that's the other thing. The spoiler culture that we have also limits the creative opportunities for developers or for publishers. And I've made tweets about this one as well. You go back far enough, you go back to Shakespeare, he gave away the entire plot of Romeo and Juliet in the prologue. Like the prologue actually says, hey, Romeo and Juliet, they're in love and they're going to
die. Lamau. Yeah.
He actually says that. And if that was a video game, if that was a film that said, the end boss is going to be this boss and, you're going to save the world, yippee, yippee-ki-yay, or if the Marvel film was like, yeah, Tony Stark's going to die. If they did that, then there'd be riots. So the actual creators aren't able to use foreshadowing as a technique, because all of a sudden, everything you might foreshadow is a spoiler. But it's such an important literary technique. And one of the reasons Romeo and Juliet is such a resonant play is because people know what's going to happen at the start. And it's about watching how it all kind of plays out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's that idea of the actual plot points aren't interesting. It's the development towards that plot point.
Exactly. So it really sucks that modern artists can't do what they might want to do with their stories. It sucks that journalists and people and critics and people that want to talk about these games or films can't talk about them the way they might want to. The only people this stuff doesn't suck for is the CEOs that manage these companies, because they have the money rolling in. By the time anybody knows that there's issues with Horizon or Marvel or whatever, they've already made their money from the day one sales and whatever. So yeah, I just wish people were more aware of why spoilers are a thing, and responded that way. That's my rant.
They won't.
No, of course not. Nobody actually learns anything in this industry, but it would be nice if they did.
No, it's not going to happen. The thing is like, we oh god, I'm gonna joke on myself. We live in a society um that profits off of this exclusionary culture. And what we've essentially done is commodified FOMO.
Yep.
And it's bullshit. And no one I don't care. I do not care. I really don't care. The thing that gets me is like in any situation, if I'm watching a movie, I'm kind of already like I kind of already know what's gonna happen. Like it's not gonna be that shocking. You know what I mean? Like I don't think I've watched a movie recently. I've been watching a lot of rom-coms, which is probably why. But in no situation am I ever challenged with anything that's actually worth being like, oh, well done. It's always just, yeah, that's the rom-com. Oh, they're doing long distance. Oh, it's gonna be hard. Who's gonna break up? They're gonna get back together though because true love. It's like that sort of thing.
And they're gonna have the airport scene. They're gonna run to each other. They're gonna kiss, and then it's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's just love actually. But yeah, like I just don't see any interest in the idea of being like, oh, you can't spoil this. Who cares? If you don't want to fucking watch it, then don't watch it. If you don't want to read it, then don't read it. If you're already that set on watching a movie or something, don't read reviews. Just go see the movie because
Well,
you'll
yeah,
probably
that's
just prefer seeing the movie than reading the reviews.
that's exactly it. Because that's the other thing that really annoys me, and that's a really good point, Alan. That people need to take it on themselves not to be spoiled. If you don't want to have the ending of Marvel ruined, then ruined, whatever you want to call it, then just stay off social media for a day. You know, I got crazy yelled at with the first of the end game. What's the first one?
Infinity War.
Infinity War. I got yelled at crazy at time for Infinity War because I made a tweet and I said, "Oh, Thanos dies." I hadn't seen the film yet. I just knew that that's going to happen because, like, by the end of the two-film plot arc, the second film wasn't even.
You're telling me, you mean to tell me, Matt, that the good guys are gonna win in a Marvel?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's all I did. I did that tweet in that context, and people just went ballistic at me for spoiling the two films.
Oh,
And I'm like,
how did you wake up the next morning, dude?
and
That's
I'm like,
horrendous.
This is the problem with these things. And if you really don't want to be spoiled on this stuff, just take it on yourself to not watch, or not follow the news, and just because other people see this stuff, they want to talk about it. If I'm playing a game like Elden Ring, I want to talk about Elden Ring. And while I'm happy to agree to the review embargo time because that's fair for everybody, once that's up, I just want to talk about it like we've been talking about it here. If there's a particular boss battle I want to talk about, or there's plot point, I just want to talk about it. And it's up to you, not me, to moderate whether you want to experience that. If you don't want spoilers, then
Yeah,
just
like
stay
punch
away.
a beehive and see what happens.
Do people talk about games anymore like we used to talk about games? If you know what I mean, like everyone's all about this like spoiler culture and stuff like that. Like like kids in the playground and stuff like that would be like, "Hi, I was playing this game the other day. It was so cool. I beat this boss. Like killed this and this and this." Like, do people talk like that anymore? Like, is that gone now?
No, because kids nowadays don't play games with story. They play.
They just play the
exclusively
sport.
They just play
Fortnite. It's like, yeah, I was playing
Fortnite.
Fortnite. Look at this dance I learned.
Yeah, that's
Spoiler.
yeah, dude, you can't spoil the
Didn't know
dance. They're gonna get
I
sued
didn't
for
know
that later.
I didn't know the
All
dance
right.
was in there.
I'm gonna actually go back to another point. Is when we were talking about like games and movies when we were spoiling them. A lot of the times, I say oh, I really love playing games with the internet. Like a new game's out, I'm playing it with the internet. It's all about reaching the plot points and stuff with the internet, because then the internet spoils it or releases it themselves, and they're like, oh, we just did this, and then you see a bunch of screenshots posted up, and then you post some screenshots from the game yourself. Like that initial time, it seems that the people are more, oh, you spoiled this. It has to be as everyone else is collectively experiencing it. And then once that initial, game or movie or whatever's been played, then after that, it seems like it's more free throw in terms of, oh, you spoiled that, who cares sort of thing. It's like not as critical for the next group of people coming in that there's spoilers out there. It's like we're talking about things like all those movies we reference. We were just like jokingly openly saying spoilers from them, and no one cares because that you don't need to care. Like, yeah.
It doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? Go outside and touch grass, you freaks.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the point, because even the original Star Wars trilogy, there are people who have not seen it yet. Um,
I've not seen episode 2 still all the way through because I always fall asleep. So
no, I'm not talking about the 1, 2, and 3. I'm talking about 4, 5, and 6, the original Star Wars films.
Right.
There are people that still haven't seen those, and I know, for example, I once worked with a guy who was deliberately not watching them because he wanted to watch them with his son when they were older and able to enjoy
That's
them.
low key very sweet though.
It is very sweet. It was very, very sweet, and he had never seen Star Wars, and he was looking forward to watching it with his kid. And so technically you could still spoil, not technically, you could still spoil the film for him, in the sense that you could say, hey, Darth Vader is Luke's son. Maybe some people out there weren't aware of that beforehand, and all of a sudden they are. So does that, if we are going to continue down this path of spoiler culture, does that mean we can never talk about a film because at some stage you're going to bump into somebody who hasn't seen that film? When does the statute of limitations expire for spoilers? When can you actually start to talk about them? And it's just such a ridiculous thing that I just wish that people weren't so hung up about it. It's on you to avoid spoilers, and everybody else can talk about the thing that they want to talk about. That's my opinion.
Be normal. Just go outside. Seriously.
Yeah, touch grass.
Literally, just go. Have fun. Find joy in this world. You don't have it. God damn, it makes me so angry. It's so stupid, dude.
Except sport results. Don't ruin those.
Yeah, but even then, like, I mean, like, if you've not watched the match and it's the next day, like, come on.
Well, like, that's the thing. Like, as a good example, I really enjoy the figure skating during the Winter Olympics, but I was busy one day, so I missed one of the rounds. Rather than tell everybody not to talk about the results, and funnily enough, I do have enough people that I follow, or news sources that do talk about these things, I just didn't click on the headlines, and I just kind of muted.
Yeah, what you do is you mute the phrase and also expect the fact that you are not the protagonist in this world.
Yeah, exactly. I don't expect everybody else not to talk about the figure skating because I haven't seen it yet. And then I watched it on replay and I got to enjoy it, and it was great. But I put that on myself to avoid the spoilers of the results.
This is now getting into political things, but it's a very American-centric sort of neolib view of the self. And it annoys me. It annoys me so much because it's just like this idea that I am the only one that matters in my world. I get to make the choices about what I see. Everyone else is out to get me, sort of shit. And it's
it's kind of related to that article. I don't know if you saw it, Alan. The article about the person who said, "I'm not going to take my shoes off when I go into someone's house."
Oh God, crime! Actual jail! Actual jail! Into the bin.
Because there was an article that somebody wrote, and it went viral because, of course, it was a stupid thing to write.
God,
but they said
so infuriating.
They said, "I'm not going to take my shoes off when I go into your house because I don't know if you're."
A group of Americans which are on the opposite side, which are equally as passionate, saying, you need to do this, and it's like, have any of you actually talked to anyone where this culture is prevalent and actually a thing, or is this actually like, if you don't actually take your shoes off, is this like a big deal or something like that? You're just making it out to be a big deal, like.
But I mean, the point was that this person clearly felt that they had a right to be an imposition on somebody else. And that's kind of the same with spoilers. People feel like they have a right to tell other people they can't talk about the thing that they want to talk about because you have to be worried about them. And there was another good, excuse me, there was another really good example that went viral not too far before that, which shows it wasn't just the Americans, Australians also do it as well. Somebody said, I can't remember the exact headline, but to paraphrase, they said, "You've got to give up board games because I don't like."
Oh, this owned. Yeah, this owned. I loved that.
How dare you enjoy board games around me? You've got to stop talking about them. You've got to get over your obsession. It's like, you don't.
Yeah,
have
my
the-
obsession of having fun with my friends.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like
I'm such a dog. Oh,
That was a great tweet.
You don't have to go around to your friend's house if they're playing board games.
I'm shocked you even have friends, to be quite honest.
But this is the thing. Over and over again, we're getting this thing through our culture where people feel like they have a right to be the imposition, and everybody else has to just allow them to do that. And it's like, well, no, fuck off.
Literally, just go, get out of my zone. I'm done with you.
I wish.
Because we are losing our ability to care and empathize with other people, that we are all about the self.
I wish it wouldn't
It's just
cost
people are
me.
losers.
I wish it wouldn't cost me future review codes if I ignored the spoilers, because I really do feel like at some stage I'm going to crack and just spoil the whole fucking thing in a game.
Can you do a review of like a pinball game and spoil that, please?
Well, I was actually genuinely tempted to do it with Horizon, because there's stuff I need to talk about with that game. I don't know when I'll get in trouble to do so. But if I did that, if I went and spoiled all of Horizon because I wanted to analyze the plot, heaven forbid, I wouldn't have got the GT7 code, or I'd be blacklisted by Sony, and that'd be it. I get to play that trick once with each publisher, and
When it's Sony, you can't really play that trick.
well, yeah, you get to play you get to play the trick once, and once you do that, that's it. Once you get blacklisted, you never get back on again. So you got to pick the right time for it, and it's just one of those battles that as a critic, it's very hard to fight. When do I pick that moment? I did with Activision. I got myself blacklisted with Activision by.
I'm so sorry that you can play
Telling
another
them-
Activision game. Oh shucks, dude.
By saying what it was with Call of Duty, I did get myself in trouble for that one once, but yeah,
That is the least surprising thing that I've ever heard in my life.
that made that made getting Sekiro very difficult, and Sekiro was a game that I needed to cover, and Sekiro was a game that we needed to cover at digitallydownloaded.net. So it is just one of those things. We're stuck as critics. We can't push back on any of this, and they know that. The publishers absolutely know that they've got all the power here, because they've got the community behind them. As you would know, if you did not like a Sony game enough, you're in a lot of trouble. I don't know if you've seen it, Alan, but there's a guy the Aussie guy gave Horizon 6.5 out of 10.
Push start.
Yeah, no, not push start, Survivor.
Oh, it was a survivor.
Yeah, no, push start gave it 10 out of 10. Survivor gave it 6.5 out of 10, Job. And he has had people on his timeline ever since.
This is like normal dude shit, in all honesty. Just like, hell yeah, brother. Just go off at this like reviewer who is not paid enough. Like you showed society. Get him. Yeah. God, I hate
How
people.
dare you hate the thing I like?
I'm so angry. Like ugh.
I was holding my breath for when somebody writes. Well, at some stage, somebody's going to write a negative review of Elden Ring, and that's not going to go well for them. That is not going to go well for them.
Primarily because they're wrong.
Oh, you're going to be one of the people in their feed.
Yeah, I'm now that guy. Yeah, it's me.
I will play it. I will analyze it. I will say that everything is horrible because it's a bad game and I can't play it and it's too hard. That will be my review. 0 out of 10. Bam, done.
All right, well, Trent, I'm gonna abuse you. I'm gonna call you words that you'll never hear again, like ding dong. I'll get you. God, I hate gamers. This is so hostile. Like I'm so sorry. This is very, very hostile. It's just it just annoys me. Ugh.
And on that note,
And on that note,
we'll wrap.
It's the podcast.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you got all the way to the end of that, yeah, it was great to have you on the podcast, Alan and Trent, as always.
Yeah.
Good chatting. Do let us know your thoughts if you tune in and play Elden Ring, I guess.
Yeah, just
That's
play
the
Elden
end.
Ring.
Play Elden
It's a
Ring.
good
Oh,
game.
don't play Elden Ring. Play a good game.
Like Elden Ring.